Real quick, think about this for a second. The most powerful military on the face of this earth, 1.4 million soldiers, nuclear warheads, fighter jets that can go invisible on a radar, the whole package, and they can't take over their own country. Every couple of years, somewhere on this planet, some general gets tired of following orders and just takes over. Myanmar, Sudan, Pakistan did it multiple times. Thailand practically has it on a schedule. Turkey almost pulled it off in 2016. But America, 250 years, zero clues, not even close. So what's going on? Is America just lucky? Nah, it's way more interesting than luck. Stick around, because by the end of this, the way you see power is never gonna be the same. Let's rewind. 1783. The Revolutionary War is basically wrapped up. George Washington just pulled off one of the greatest military upsets in history. His soldiers would have died for this man. Literally, many of them did. But Congress hadn't paid these soldiers in months. These guys were broke, exhausted, and furious. So historians believe it was a young officer named John Armstrong Jr., possibly with backing from General Horatio Gates, started passing around anonymous letters through the camp. The message was pretty much, Washington won the whole war. Congress is disrespecting us. Why doesn't it just march to Philadelphia and take what's ours? The soldiers were ready. The timing was perfect. Nobody would have stopped them. Washington walked into that room knowing exactly what was happening. And he shut it down. He pulled out a letter from Congress and started reading it. Then he stopped. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a pair of glasses, and his men had never seen him wear glasses before. He looked up and said, "Gentlemen, you will permit me to put on my spectacles, for I have not only grown gay, but almost blind in the service of my country." Several soldiers started crying. The whole energy in that room just collapsed. The crew was over before it started. Washington could have been king that day. He went home to his farm instead. That one moment, one old man, one pair of glasses, set a standard that every American officer has been measured against ever since. Okay, so here's what most people miss entirely. And this is the part that actually makes the whole thing work. Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. The President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief of the military. A civilian, a politician, someone who never wore a uniform. They are in charge of everyone who does. Biden never served. Trump never served. Obama never served. But American soldiers don't just tolerate this. They are trained from day one to genuinely believe in it. At West Point, cadets don't swear an oath to the army. They don't swear an oath to any general. They swear an oath to the Constitution, a piece of paper, an idea. That's not a small thing. That's 200 years of culture being drilled into every officer who ever graduated from that place. Now here's the part that's honestly kind of brilliant. And you can tell the founders are paranoid in the best possible way. They deliberately broke the military into competing pieces: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. Each one has its own leadership, its own culture, its own budget fights. And trust me, these branches don't like each other. Ask a Marine what they think of the Army. Go ahead, I'll wait. On top of all that, you've got the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, his deputy, and 6 service chiefs. 8 people who've spent their entire careers competing against each other for resources, relevance, and Pentagon real estate. For a crew to work, you'd need all of them to secretly agree, secretly plan the whole thing, and somehow keep it quiet. In Washington, D.C., a city where leaking information is basically the local sport. Yeah, not happening. Here's the thing nobody really brings up when they talk about this, and it might actually be the most important piece. The military doesn't control its own money. Congress does. Every dollar that goes to every tank, every bullet, every soldier's paycheck, all of it gets approved by elected civilians. The military can't just go buy stuff on their own. So let's say a general snaps and decides today's the day. What happens next? Congress turns off the money. No fuel for the jets. No paychecks for the soldiers. Your base stops getting food deliveries. The lights go out. You can't run a government or a coup on loyalty alone when people's families stop getting paid. Every general in the building understands this. It keeps the whole thing grounded. Reconstruction was ending. For over a decade, federal troops had been stationed across the South, knocking on doors, enforcing laws, occupying cities. Americans had seen up close what it looks like when soldiers become foolish. In 1878, Congress decided they'd seen enough. They passed the Posse Comitatus Act. Posse Comitatus is Latin. The rough idea behind it goes back to the old concept of a sheriff calling on civilians for help. This law flipped that on its head entirely. In plain English, the military can't act as a police force on American soil. They can't arrest you. They can't pull you over. They can't enforce domestic law. That legal wall between soldiers and everyday civilian life isn't just tradition. It's a federal crime to cross it. Every soldier knows this. The moment you point a weapon at an American citizen for political reasons, your career is over and you are going to prison. But okay, let's just go there. Imagine one rogue general decides none of that matters. He's got tanks. He's got soldiers who are loyal to him personally. He's heading toward DC. Who stops him? First, the rest of the military. Every other branch, every other general would immediately move against him. You'd essentially be a traitor fighting your own colleagues, and you'd be outnumbered first. Second, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and a dozen other agents whose entire job is detecting exactly this kind of things before it ever gets started. Third, this is the one that surprises people. There are roughly 400 million privately owned firearms in the United States. The Second Amendment wasn't just about hunting. The founders literally wrote it so regular citizens could resist a government that turned on them. Any military force trying to hold American cities would be walking into a nightmare. And fourth, 50 governors, each commanding their own state national guard. That's not a small thing. A coup general wouldn't be taking over America. He'd be starting a civil war he has absolutely no path to winning. I know some of you are already typing in the comments. What about January 6th? What about Trump and the generals? Fair. Let's talk about it honestly. After the 2020 election, there were real conversations inside Trump's inner circle about declaring martial law to hold on to power. It wasn't just rumors. Multiple people confirmed it on record. Some advisors pushed for it hard. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs at the time, got word of what was being discussed. He personally moved to ensure nuclear protocols were locked down and that no orders outside the proper chain of command would be executed. He made it clear to the people around him, there's a process for this, and it can be bypassed. And here's what actually matters. Not one senior military commander went along with any of it. Not one. These are people who spent 35 years building their careers around a single thing. Their oath to the Constitution. They weren't throwing that away. The system was tested in a way it hadn't been tested in a very long time. And it held. So why can't a military coup happen in America? It's not because Americans are better than other people. It's not destiny. It's not luck. It's engineering. By men who are genuinely scared of what they are building. Because they'd seen what unchecked power does to people. They split the military apart so no one person could control it. They put civilians in charge of soldiers. They made the money flow through elected representatives. They passed laws making it a crime for the military to turn on its own citizens. And they built a culture, generation after generation, of soldiers who genuinely believed their loyalty belongs to an idea, not a person. George Washington could have been king. He had the army, the public support, the perfect moment. He chose to go home. And somehow, that choice is still echoing in every officer who looked at an order that crossed a line and said no. in every general who picked up the phone and made sure the tradition happened the right way. 250 years. The system isn't perfect. It never was, but it's held, and that matters. Honestly, democracy is a lot more fragile than most people realize. It doesn't survive just because it's the right system. It survives because enough people in enough key positions decide every single day to keep it alive. If this got you thinking, drop a comment. Which country do you think is closest to the edge right now? I'm genuinely curious what you guys think. If this hit different, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.